Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Caron. I am a protocol specialist at CoinMetrics, and I'm here today to talk about Solana. We recently released our Solana metrics product, and I want to share some of the findings. Show of hands, who here is a Solana user? 2? Nice. So a bit about CoinMetrics. It was founded as an open source project in 2017 by Nick Carter to map on-chain movements in Bitcoin. Right, so it could be anybody, the whole community, the Bitcoin community could see what's going on-chain. And that's since expanded into Ethereum and now Solana and other chains as well. I'm talking about our network data stack today. It's going to be pretty data heavy, a lot of graphs, but I think that's super interesting, so hopefully you guys do too. We also do price data and other TradFi focused stuff. So since not a lot of Solana users here, I'm going to give a bit of an intro to how Solana accounts works. Unlike Ethereum, where state is stored in the contract here, each externally owned account has its own data account per program that it interacts with. So let's say you've got 2 users with externally owned accounts or wallets right there. They want to interact in a DEX swap program to use USDC to swap against each other. Well, what they need is they each need a data account that interacts with one, the SPL token program, the DEX swap program. These are both executable programs, and the USDC token account, so the mint account. And then they can interact through along their data accounts. But what this means is that for every single token, you need its own separate data account, which means if you interact with 50 different tokens, you've got 50 different data accounts, so it gets pretty complicated after a while. But yeah. Cool, this is the first graph. Here I'm comparing ETH and Solana in what I'm refer to as a minnow ratio. So we all know what a whale is. A minnow is the opposite. Here a whale is somebody who transfers more than $1 million in SOL, and a minnow is somebody who transfers less than $1 million in SOL. Right? Pretty big minnows, but still. This orange and red and orange, that's Solana. So the minnows in red, the total sum of minnow transfers in red, and the total sum of whale transfers in orange. And then you can see up here, this is the ratio. So about 80% of the value transferred in SOL is in minnow transactions. And on Ethereum, it's just 40%, which makes sense. Solana has a much lower transaction fees, and as a result on Ethereum, people tend to send larger sums and you get priced out of the small transactions. Yeah, so the last 6 months have been pretty rosy for Solana. Price movement, I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. But also the growth in users. So this is this is wallet growth, so externally owned accounts, not accounts. I'll get back to that a few times. But externally owned accounts, so wallets of unique users per day transacting with these 3 stable coins, USDC, USDT, and UXD. UXD is a native stable coin on Solana, which doesn't have a lot of users, but I included it because it's the only native one. And you can see over these past 6 months, USDT and USDC have reached, at times, over 2,500% growth. So immense users coming into the space here. But the question is, will they stay? Right? That's the whole point of the talk. Staking data, the APR fluctuates a bit, but you can see here, it's risen quite a lot. This is the meme coin frenzy recently. Staking functions similarly to Ethereum, where you get paid based on some inflation if you're staking, but also part of the transaction fee. So the transaction fee, half of that is paid out to validators, and the other half is paid out to, or the other half is burnt. And as a result, with more people coming into the space in this last month and a bit, and a lot of users paying a lot of transaction fees, the staking rate goes up, or the APR goes up. And what this also means is that Solana is slowly approaching deflation. Still far away, because I start the graph at 75%, right? This is the supply versus the supply issued versus the supply burnt. And as I said, when transaction fees, here you see the mean transaction fee, when the transaction fees rise, such as on when the Jupiter airdrop occurred at the end of January, or when the meme coin frenzy began at the beginning of March, transaction fees spike, and there's more burn. And as a result, well, it almost touched 85% issued to burn ratio. So it's still quite far off from what Ethereum has, but it might get there. Cool. So in Solana, it prides itself with a lot of transaction per second, 720,000 theoretical per second, but in reality, it seldomly reaches 10,000 per second. And well, we've had a lot of traction over this past 6 months, a lot of people coming into the space, but this is a bit like a rocket ship taking off. It's got limited fuel and it wants to reach the moon, right? And it's flying, it's losing fuel, but it's getting closer to the moon. Now suddenly it hits a layer of the atmosphere that's composed of honey. That's kind of what we've got now. There's congestion issues, there's the chain goes down sometimes. So this is negative network effects. It's the paradox that Solana is facing. It's got a lot of success right now, but as you'll see is what I get into now. Is it going to be bleak the next 6 months? We'll see. But here, first point, the failure rate, here this line, has gone up to 30% from a low of just 6 months ago. And that's because Solana introduced priority fees a couple of months ago, and that's become more common amongst users, but mainly among sophisticated users. So there's a lot of trading bots, trading bots on Solana that are paying priority fees to be included in a block, but validators don't have to include all transactions in a block. They will prioritize those that pay priority fees, obviously. And normal users, retail users, they often use wallets where they can't even submit a priority fee, and as a result, they might not be included in the block. You might say, yeah, but Solana promises 720,000 transactions per second. Why can't they handle a few more? Well, it's because a validator will always prioritize building a block over including all transactions that want to be in the block, because they don't gain that much more from each individual transaction. And so, since there's no mempool in Solana, a transaction just gets dropped if it doesn't get included. And that's why you have these high failure rates recently. But we also see so this is a stacked chart of transaction counts, vote transactions and non-vote transactions. Each validator votes on every block, but we can see overall the transaction count has been going down, even though the non-vote, so normal users transacting on the chain, that's been going up steadily. But overall, it's been going down. I'll get back to that in a second. This goes back to what I started with, the account model on Solana. We have here the unique users or wallets and the externally owned accounts. It's been going up over 10x, right? In October, it was under 100K. Notice it's a log axis, and now it's at roughly 1 million. So it went up a bit over 10x. But the accounts have not gone up 10x, right? They've stayed relatively the same. So if you take the ratio of those, addresses per or accounts per wallet, that's this line here in the middle, charted on this y-axis. That's gone down in these 6 months from 50 accounts per wallet to just 10. And as I mentioned earlier, each token that you want to interact with, you need your own account for it. Each program you want to interact with, you need your own account for it. And so for this ratio to go down from 50 to 10, that's quite a lot. And you could, there's a number of ways to interpret it, but I interpret it as the users back 6 months ago were a lot more sophisticated and used Solana much more, and they had a much more complex interaction with the chain. So they had 50 accounts. Let's say they used 20 different tokens, 10 DEXs, a couple of NFT marketplaces. Each one of those needs an account. Nowadays, each user just has 10, which includes all the tokens and all the smart contracts that they interact with, right? So there's quite a few, and that means, are they really here to stay, or are they just trading a bit of slurf? Slurf is a meme coin that came about last month, and it picked up steam because allegedly the dev accidentally burnt half of its supply on the very first day. All the coins that were meant for the pre-sale. Burnt it all, or burnt half, and then it was allegedly the fairest meme coin launch ever because all of the pre-sale was accidentally burnt. But you never know with these things, it's all just marketing. But you can see 140,000 unique wallets bought this meme coin token on the first day. But since, yeah, is it dying? Maybe, but a lot of these graphs look like this. So back to the thing I mentioned earlier with the transaction count of vote transaction count. That's been going down, and that's because validators, who are now also having to pay more to be included in a block, because each vote is also has to be included in a block. It's not like Ethereum where it takes place separately. It takes place right next to all the retail transactions. So if you if your validator wants to vote, and remember, it should vote on every block, well, then it needs to sit right next to those retail transactions as well. So you pay a higher transaction fee, or you have a higher fail rate with your votes as well. So what validators end up doing is they don't vote on every block. They bundle their votes into every 10 blocks. And we can see that here in this line. Well, this is the validator count. This is when the Solana outage on February 6th occurred, and you can see the drop in validators, but subsequent rise. This is the mean block time, so how long a block took. So here it's about 2 blocks a second. And this is the amount of votes submitted per validator per block. Has gone down steadily as well. This results in more congestion because, well, not more congestions, but risks to finality. So if it's like democracy only getting together once every 4 years to discuss what you want to do, rather than continually talking about how to improve and how to change the government, right? It would be very inefficient to put everything on pause for 4 years and then at the end of those 4 years get together and try to solve everything. And that's kind of the issue with bundling your votes into a single block and then waiting 10 blocks to submit 10 more votes. And yeah, so the validators end up having less chance to talk and less chance to agree on on finality and what the chain tip is and what truth is, essentially. Yeah, so what's the solution to our rocket flying through the layer of honey? We're gonna need a pointier tip. Thank you, everyone.